Hello, welcome back to the pod. Today we're having a very snug pod. Today I'm podcasting a bit later in the day, like it's pretty much nighttime. The sun is about to set, and I just feel a bit like more snug and warm, like I'm in the winter. It's just not as hot today as it usually is. So we're just settling in for a little bit of a, I don't know, I feel like I want to have a mulled wine or something. I want to have a mulled wine with my blanket, settle into the couch, become like Homer Simpson with the couch and just relax. That's how I'm feeling today. I have been traveling a lot this year, been getting around, really just clocking up those miles. I think this, especially around Asia, I think that I now have traveled a lot. I would say I'm a very seasoned traveler. And by being a seasoned traveler, it means that I'm a very frequent airport goer. And today I wanted to talk about airport thoughts. I have consistently made notes of like thoughts that I have at the airport and observations that I have when I'm at the airport or I'm on an airplane. And I always note them down because I just think there are such interesting like observations and thoughts. And it says a lot about society. If you really think about it, airports are like a rare place that so many different types of people congregate to with a similar intention, and have no choice but to like all kind of abide by the same treatment and experiences, like security checks and customs and immigration and all that. So it's really interesting, I think, airports and just how people behave and the antics of an airport. I think that each country and their airports is very different. Some airports are so relaxed and you just feel like this is so fun. I love being at this airport. It's so easy to get in and out of. Like the Singapore airport, so easy to get in and out of. I can literally rock up 10 minutes before my boarding time, sneak on through that security and the customs like within literally 1 minute. I'm not even exaggerating. It's taken me 1 minute to get through, and then be on the other end and just relax and go to like the butterfly garden and do all these really cool things. So I do think having a nice airport is definitely worthwhile because it's your first place that people really interact with your country. So why not, jazz it up? I think I went to the Vancouver airport and I thought that was super nice as well. They had, I just thought the shape of it and the lighting and the architecture and they had like a lot of native like artwork, I think, as well. Similar, I mean, the New Zealand airport is not as nice, but it has the same idea where it does have some like native carvings and things like that, which I think is quite interesting. But anyway, I feel like airports always, for me, also bring out such deep and introspective thoughts. And I don't know, I think I'm in a very different mindset when I'm at the airport, which I think is interesting. I will preface this by saying that I am a very observant person, so maybe things that I notice other people don't notice. I just don't actually know how I became so observant. I think it's because when I was younger, I didn't really people thought I didn't have much going on up there, but I think I was just always just watching people and learning and like understanding like how people around me were behaving. And I don't know why I did that. I don't think I really did it with intention. I think I just did it, to be honest. Maybe I'm a mini genius at heart. Who knows? So I'll start with the first one, which is, this is literally what I wrote in my notes. Why are TSA people so mean? And I don't mean just the American TSA, but just like any immigration or like security at the airport. They're never very nice. They're always so stone-faced and give you a lot of attitude and very like impatient and short. Like there's no room for messing about with them, which I think like in one hand that's like good because I guess they're supposed to be protecting the security of the country. So it's kind of like setting the tone of like no messing around, like we take it very seriously and making you respect the country. But also I feel like you can ask, you can get people to respect your country and like respect what your rules are by also being like a bit nicer and just not being such a dick. I do think that universally, like most places that I've been, yeah, the staff that like at a security, like I don't know what they call them, like they're security, but they're not immigration, but they work for like the security authority or body that's working for like the airport. They're never very nice. They're always like, take your shoes off, like shouting at you, being really aggressive, raising their voice. And part of me thinks that it's just like, my dad always says like, oh, you put them give someone a uniform and they like really change their behavior. I'm thinking that maybe it's that, because it's like this authoritative position. They're able to have power where they can dictate and say what they want and be, I guess, the gatekeeper for something. And maybe humans inherently love that. Maybe that's why we have so much war, because people just like love these ego boosts of being able to be hierarchical. I don't know, but it's a very strange space for me to want to have authority over. Being able to say, no, you can't bring in that liquid. It's above 100 milliliters. It's bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. If anybody has an interesting TSA style story, let me know. But every time I go into TSA, I'm always like, okay, don't mess with them. Like, just do what they say, because I just feel like they'll just make your life so much harder if you don't. That's a bit sad, isn't it? And then I also felt like when I go to different countries, you really observe, I guess, the culture and society, right? So, and I always wonder, like, why do I adjust so much to the environment that I live in? For example, I've lived in Hong Kong, and I've lived in Myanmar, and I've lived in Singapore, and each of these like countries, and I've lived in Australia obviously, but each of these countries have very different, like, I guess, societal norms, cultures, and attitudes. For instance, in Hong Kong, Hong Kongers are just super like to the point. What do you want from me? Like, you go into a 7-Eleven, it's not, hi, how are you? It's, what do you want from me? Or just put your item there, scan it, like, pay me my money and then move on. There's no interaction, there's no engagement. That's not what either party seem to want. And that took a lot to get used to. And then when you get used to it, you realize like that just becomes your behavior, because I guess you get influenced by like, all right, they're not here for conversation, just like go. And in Australia, like, I think we do say hi quite a lot when people go into stores, like, hey, how you going? But it's never like extensive talk, where I feel like in the US, it's a lot more like, hey, how you doing? And there's like expected for like a whole conversation to come out of that. Whereas Australians don't necessarily feel a need to be like overly nice. Like, they'll talk to you, but you don't have to go into a big conversation. So I just think there's a very interesting difference. And I do sometimes when I'm like, why do I get so influenced by my environment? Why can't I just be consistently my own like person, I guess? For example, when I lived in Hong Kong and it was during COVID, I finally got the opportunity to go to America. And it was still like, Hong Kong still had so many rules. There was like still a mask all the time, blah, 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 blah. But we flew from Hong Kong to Atlanta, and there was but the whole plane was just mainly Asian. And we flew and we landed, and it was so funny. I just remember like, because there was a lot of people that needed, I think, assistance. There was a lot of wheelchair like caregivers that were waiting to come onto the flight and take people off, but we all exited first. And when we were exiting, there were all these like people that were like airport staff, just sitting there like, hey, how you doing? How are you? And it was so funny because the contrast was like every Asian person who's just like so acclimatized to not really making conversation. We're just walking and like not making eye contact, not really responding. And I was like, oh my God, it gave me culture shock, because it gave me a moment. I had to step back and be like, oh, I should be replying to you people like I normally would. I realized that I had become so accustomed to the norms of the society that I was living in that I had stopped being, I guess I had retracted on that normal personality trait that I have, which is that I would actually talk to people and say hi. And so I actually had to retrain myself to be okay with engaging with people and having conversation. And it made me just laugh to myself and made me be introspective and think like, why are you so, I guess, impressed? I'm impressionable by the environment that I live in is what I'm trying to say. Why not just, if you're a person that's like, hey, how you doing? Just be consistently that. And I think it comes down to what I was saying before is like, how deeply is it ingrained in your behavior? I think like in America, saying like, hey, how you doing? Like, hey, ma'am, hey, sir, like all that sort of stuff is very ingrained in their everyday politeness and way that they talk, maybe even without them thinking. Whereas in Australia, it's like a mixed bag. Like you don't always say hi. It's just, yeah. And so anyway, I realized that I become a little bit more cold and less nice when I first meet people and being a bit too guarded. So I've been trying to make an effort to be more like consistent, I guess, with my behavior cross country. I also do think, I mean, there is a time and a place for like being short with people. You know, you do it when you're when it's within reason and it's like normal and safe, and the people are like looking for that sort of interaction. Yeah. I also think that whenever I'm at the airport or on the airplane, whenever I'm on an airplane and it's like dark, oh God, Lord help me. Like that is when I become the most like deep and introspective and like kind of seldom. Seldom means like you don't often. Sorry, I like feel a bit more blue. That's what I'm trying to say. Because you know, like those. You know what I just thought of? I just thought of that when they do those psychology tests, and they're like, I seldom feel blue. I just took the word as seldom instead of blue. Sorry. Anyway, I feel more blue and like when I'm on a flight. I don't know. It's something about the darkness and like the sound, and you're just there, and you're on your little phone. I remember when I was younger, when I was traveling, I used to like always make notes and write like whole little like blurbs about what I was thinking. Whenever I was on flights and it was like dark and I was alone, I just felt like so much more emotional. I remember times I used to just like listen to music and not cry, but just feel really deep in my emotions. And I think it's quite nice. I actually don't mind it. It's like going into like a weird meditative state. And then I also think at the same time I feel like that when I was younger. Maybe I was feeling like angsty, but now I feel more like happy and excited when I'm on flights and when I'm at the airport. I feel very like hopeful and less stressed and very in the present, like it's so great to be here. And sometimes like how can you engage your airport thoughts and emotions like more consistently throughout your day-to-day. Like I want to be able to have those feelings and thoughts without going to the airport to have those thoughts. But that's just, yeah. I just think it's interesting. I just think maybe it's not possible. I just do think airports just make you feel a certain way. Maybe it's because an airport kind of signifies the closest thing to freedom in a way. Like even though that's a weird contradiction because you're going into an airplane where you can't escape and you're sitting in a seat that you have to sit in with all these people. But it's like the intention and the act of where you're going is like this element of freedom because you're going to some new land, some new discovery, a new place out of your norm. And it feels very freeing and liberating is what I think. The other area that I always observe people all the time, and I think it's so funny, is people are just different types of people you get on flights. Like I'm actually amazed by the amount of people, especially in Asia. So many people are really impatient, and like as soon as the flight like lands, people will just get up out of their seat. Sometimes like the plane is still moving, and like you just hear the air hostess be like, "Please sit down," or like even when the airplane takes off and it hasn't gotten to the cruising point yet. We haven't reached the amount of feet we need to get to. People will just get up and start walking. I'm like, excuse me, are you not going to fall backwards? Literally, you're going against gravity. So I always just find that amazing, like how impatient people are, especially in Asia. They just really love to like get up and get off that flight. And I don't disagree. Like I also am very eager to get off flights, but I just feel like you have to time that really well. What are our thoughts on people who put their seat back on short flights? One time, this person posted about this on Instagram as like a kind of like a question, yes, no kind of poll thingy. And they're like, oh, putting your seat back on short flights. And I never really had thought too deeply about it. But then I was like, oh yeah, I guess. Like, is it okay? Because the other day I was on a flight and it's like a 1 hour flight and someone put their seat back and I was like, oh, come on, dude. You are just like cramping the style for everybody. Now, like that person, it was on my left, had like way less space and then he didn't really want to put his seat back because then it's like a chain, it's a butterfly effect, right? And so, yeah, I do think that like putting your seat back on a short flight, like a 1 hour flight is a bit of a no-no. Like you can power to you, do what you want, but it's just like, do you really need to do that? Are you really going to sleep? Just sit upright. Also, I think maybe I don't think this is a very controversial comment at all, but I do think that maybe it's an unpopular opinion. I'm not sure. I think it's a normal opinion. I don't think that putting your seat back is actually that comfortable. I actually think it's quite bad for your back. I always feel like sitting upright is better. Just sit up straight. I feel like when I go back a bit, it's like, it's not enough, you know? It's not like you're getting that business class flex. You're just getting a slight 10-degree decline, recline. And in no way does that make me sleep better or like feel more supported in my body. So I feel like nowadays I'd rather sit like upright and straight. This one is I think this would be such a fun debate. And you guys feel free to comment like your thoughts on this, but we're in an aisle, all right? So we're in a row. You have the window, the middle of the aisle. Obviously the middle is definitely the hardest place to be because you don't get the ownership. You have like zero power, right? So at least in the window, you've got the window and you've got the shutter. If you're in the aisle, you've got like the row, you've got the bit of more leg space, you've got that toilet there, super accessible. What is your favorite position to be in? For me, it's the aisle. Because I'm tall, I like to have space, but I also like to feel like I can just get up and go and do what I want. But I also find that I used to really like the window, but I find nowadays like I don't find the window that comfortable to like lean on and sleep on. I think like if I was in a really long haul flight, then maybe a window is preferable. But I think generally for short flights, like when I say short, like up to 4 hours, I do think that an aisle seat is preferable because you can just like move around a lot faster, and then I'm not really gonna sleep that long on an aisle on a short flight. But what I always think is funny is just like seeing the power play when you're sitting in a row. Like who gets to pee on the armrests? I sat in the plane the other day, and this chick was on the window, and I went to sit in the middle, and she was just like trying to own both armrests while sitting in the window. I was like, girl. Yours is the right-hand side. Like your window is on the right. You're leaning that side. Give me the left armrest because I have to share it with the other dude on the other side. But she was really like elbows out, man. She was like pushing me. I had to really get my elbows in there as well and push a bit. It was very frustrating. But yeah, so window seat people, they have such an entitled attitude towards the window. Some of them, not all of them. And like, you know, they'll put their head in front of the whole window. No one else can see. I'm like, excuse me? Did you buy this seat specifically? And then they have so much power with the shutter. Like, oh, you're in a day flight. Oh, but I'm watching a movie, so I'm just going to shut the window. You don't get to choose about whether or not that window gets to be open and you get light. So much drama on the airplane. And the aisle seat, of course, is like, you're the gatekeeper for the toilet. Oh, you want to go toilet? Oh, you're going to have to wake me up so that you can go toilet, or you're going to climb over me, or so much drama. So I think that airplane rows just have so much, just the perfect place to see how different people behave. And I think it's high stakes as well. Like I think generally it's like a high, like tensions are kind of high because everybody's been chucked onto this plane, which obviously they've chosen to be on. But you're accepting when you go on a plane that you're going to have to be in very close proximity to a lot of people that you don't really know. And so don't really know. You just don't know them generally. And then, you have to you all adhere to this unspoken like airplane etiquette. And not everybody plays by the rules. That's the tricky part. Is somebody going to let you go to the toilet quite easily, or are they going to be like, ugh? If they say, ugh, big problems. I'm like, put them up. Let's fight. But yeah, I just think that aeroplane seating has so much trust in society to just be okay with negotiating and being tolerant of other people. And I think most cases it works quite well. The last thing I'm going to comment on, which I have not yet encountered, and when I say yet, I don't want to encounter this, but people have been telling me about, like, I've been seeing comments as well on videos about how people have had, like, maybe unwell or, like, not sane people on their flights trying to open up, like, the emergency door on a flight and somebody else having to stop them. I'm sorry, but I have not encountered that. But if I were to, I would just, like, mind boggled, and I would literally tackle that person to the ground. Why on earth is somebody trying to open up an emergency door during a flight? People are not right. Just bizarre. Anyway, these are my airport thoughts or aeroplane thoughts, just general up in the air thoughts. I do really love the airport. I think it's such a fun place to be sometimes, depending on the airport, only if it's a good one. If it's a boring one, I don't really want to be there that long. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Have you had any really interesting journeys or experiences at airports or, like, on airplanes? I want to hear the tea. Tell me. Okay, thanks for listening to the pod. Bye.